It says in the 14th Amendment that citizens are people who are all persons born in the U.S. and not subject to any foreign power. I mean, they must have had something on their mind when they said not subject to any foreign power. Does anyone want to comment on that, how that little phrase there, how that affects what the original drafters intended?
I addressed some of that in my opening remarks, sir. So I think the best understanding is that it referred to children who would be deemed citizens of their parents' home country as of the moment of birth.
Okay, and right now in this country, if your wife goes to Italy and has a baby, does she become an Italian citizen? Would anybody say that?
I'm not sure what Italy's laws are. I would defer to Mr. O'Brien on that. I can say that at the time of the 14th Amendment, for example, English citizens born in the U.S. would still be deemed English citizens, and that's why they would not be entitled to birthright citizenship.
Okay. There are a variety of other countries that have some form of birthright citizenship, none of them in Europe, Canada. But you mentioned, Mr. O'Brien, that that's a limited type of birthright citizenship. Could you elaborate on that?
Yes, in most of those countries, there are restrictions that require at least one of your parents to be there lawfully. In some cases, it's birthright citizenship combined with familial lineage. There's all different ways of doing this. What I can say unequivocally is that the United States is the only place that does it the way it's done here.
Okay, so if you would interpret it the way some people want it interpreted, you would say the United States would be a clear outlier in the globe.
Yes.
Would they have been a clear outlier in 1866?
Well, yes, because at that point, most other countries in the world were monarchies, and the monarch considered you to be something akin to property owing permanent allegiance. So regardless of where you were born, you could still be considered a citizen depending upon how you had left the country.
Of course, we have records of the debate at the time in 1866. There's a quote here from Senator Howard from Michigan, making it clear, I think, that he felt we were excluding people who are foreigners or aliens normally. Do you want to elaborate on that, what the drafters at the time thought?
Sure. I think the drafters at the time were concerned about the treatment of emancipated slaves during the Reconstruction time. Frankly, at that point in time, there was a relatively small number of people in the United States, and as I had stated in my opening remarks, the concept of illegal alien was not the same as it is now.
Was there any indication at that time that in the hypothetical that the opponents of President Trump cite today, was there any indication that the drafters of the amendment believed that if somebody just came here as a visitor or whatever, we talk about, people coming from China, landing in San Diego or whatever, that the equivalent would have resulted in people being a citizen? Is there any evidence of that in, 1865, 1860?
No, the court in Won Kim Ark was very explicit when it said that it was referring to people who were residing in the United States with the permission of the government.
There's no evidence of any of the debaters at that time saying, whoosh, we're opening the door to become American citizen. Anybody who gets off, just gets off a boat.
No, and I think if you stop and think about the way the amendment was drafted, if that's what they wanted, they could have just left the qualifying statement out and said anyone born in the United States is a citizen. But they added subject to the jurisdiction thereof for a reason.
Exactly. It's in there for a purpose. It's an amendment to the Constitution of the United States. You wouldn't put that in there if you wanted anybody who just shows up as a baby to be a citizen, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you the others know any examples of other countries, any other countries that have something this broad, just so we understand the way an average person thinks about these things?
Yes, I'll say that 32 countries have birthright citizenship, just like the United States, including Canada and Mexico.
Okay, Mr. O'Brien, I think she's saying something a little misleading there. When she says just like the United States, even though there are no European countries, are they, when they have birthright citizenship, just like the United States? I think what you told me is not true.
No, to the best of my knowledge, at present, there is some kind of limitation on birthright citizenship in all the places that have it.
Well, thank you all for tolerating me, and we'll send it back to the chair.